when I discovered that the wet nurse had swapped my sister for her own daughter, I was so frantic that I burst into tears, which alarmed my mother. My mother was so furious that she slapped the wet nurse 10 times across the face and drove her out of the Prime Minister's residence, harboring a deep grudge. The wet nurse sneaked into the bedroom at night and used a hairpin to slash my entire body, leaving me covered in blood. Although I managed to save my sister, I was left horribly disfigured. My parents, ashamed of my ugly appearance, locked me in a side room and announced to outsiders that I was born weak and could only stay at home to recuperate, unable to see anyone. My younger sister, however, was pampered and grew up lively and beautiful, becoming the object of many noble young men's affections. Later, my sister fell in love with my fiancé, Zhaoying, but Zhaoying, valuing loyalty and righteousness, only had eyes for me and was determined to marry me. The younger sister, consumed by jealousy and hatred, locked Zhaoying and me in a room and set it on fire. Zhaoying and I were burned alive. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when the wet nurse switched my sister. I immediately closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. Why should you be born as the noble second daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, my daughter, and you have the same father? I will make my daughter change her fate. The wet nurse's venomous voice startled me awake. I squinted my eyes and pretended to sleep, watching from the slits of my eyelids as the wet nurse, gritting her teeth, picked up my newborn sister and exchanged her swaddle with that of another baby girl. Before my sister could even let out a cry, the wet nurse stuffed a bundle of diapers into her mouth. I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. The wet nurse came to my cradle, stared at me for a while, and suddenly let out a cold laugh. You're lucky. Even sleeping you're having sweet dreams, smiling so happily. My heart suddenly tightened, and I quickly made my breathing even and long. Fortunately, the wet nurse didn't stay any longer. She picked up my sister who had been swapped, and hurried out of the bedroom. I lifted my limbs with baby noises, looking at my delicate and smooth skin, and tears welled up in my eyes. In my previous life, when I discovered that my sister had been switched by the wet nurse, I cried and made a scene with all my strength, finally waking up my mother next door. My mother witnessed the entire process of the wet nurse switching the children, flew into a rage, slapped her 10 times, and then drove her out of the mansion. Little did we know that the wet nurse harbored a grudge and sneaked into the bedroom at night, slashing my entire body with a hairpin, leaving bloody wounds. Although I managed to save my sister, I became horribly disfigured as a result. Day by day, my scars grew more hideous, with blood-red ridges crawling from head to toe. My parents, disgusted by my ugliness, locked me away in a side room, forbidding me from stepping outside. They told others that I was born frail and needed to rest at home, unable to see anyone. Meanwhile, my younger sister was raised to be lively and beautiful, becoming the sweetheart of many noble young men. Later, my sister fell in love with Zhaoying, the man I was betrothed to since childhood, and she wanted to take my place in marrying him. But Zhaoying was loyal and righteous, and he was determined to marry me. My sister was consumed by jealousy and hatred, tricking Zhaoying into my room, locking the door from the outside, and setting it on fire. Zhaoying and I were nearly burned to death. On the brink of death, Zhaoying clutched my hand tightly. See, our bond in this life is shallow, but in the next life, I will never betray you. After my death, a wisp of my wronged soul floated in the air. Witnessing my parents protect my sister by smearing my name, they say it was me, this sickly wretch, who shamelessly insisted on having an affair with Zhaoying, and when he refused to the death, I went mad and set a fire to die with him. Later, to appease the Zhao family's anger, my father and mother stuffed me into a thin coffin and threw me into a mass grave, leaving wild dogs to tear me apart until there was nothing left of my body. I was filled with hatred and sorrow, deeply regretting that I had risked everything to save my sister back then. Suddenly, the daughter of the wet nurse beside me burst into loud cries, jolting me out of my memories. In this new life, I will never interfere with my sister's fate, no matter how tragic her end at the hands of the wet nurse. She deserves it. The leaves turned green and then yellow, and 15 years passed in the blink of an eye. In this life, I am the talented and beautiful eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's household. My parents treat me a bit better, but they still don't put much effort into nurturing me. Only my grandmother, just like in my previous life, spends a fortune hiring masters to teach me music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Meanwhile, my fake sister, just like her birth mother, is illiterate and has nothing but a pretty face. But because she was the youngest child of the Prime Minister's household, she was spoiled by father into being arrogant, domineering, and lawless. Father named her Qin Baozhu, which sounded even more like a cherished pearl than my own sister's name from her previous life, Qin Huani. On the day before my 16th birthday, it happened to be Father's Day off. He took me and Qin Baozhu to the Gold and Jade Pavilion to pick out jewelry. I chose a 300-tail ruby gold hairpin, while Qin Baozhu took a fancy to a 500-tail pearl headdress. Father looked at me with a troubled expression. See, today I only brought 700 taels of silver notes with me when I went out. I think that 200-tailed jade and gold hairpin is also quite nice. You're the older sister. Could you let Baoju have this one? I smiled sweetly. I suppose father and mother will give me other birthday gifts tomorrow, so today I'll listen to father and choose that jade and gold hairpin. As soon as I finished speaking, Qin Baoju immediately changed her expression. Sister, how can you be so greedy? Today, father is just taking you to buy a birthday gift. How can you still be thinking about father and mother giving you other things? Dad already told me, all the jewelry in my mother's dowry is meant for me. Don't even think about taking it. Father's expression turned awkward, and he patted Qin Baoju's shoulder. You silly child, what are you talking about? I forced a smile. Father, I'm not feeling well. I'd like to rest in the carriage for a while. With that, I set down the golden hairpin in my hand and ran out the door. Maybe my parents and I were just destined to have a shallow connection. No matter who my sister is, they always favor her, even though I had given up on them in my previous life. Hearing my fake sister say they were biased still hurt me deeply. As soon as I stepped out of the shop, Qin Baoju followed quickly. She looked smug as she said to me, Sister, can't you take it? Do you think being skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting will make our parents love you more? They still love me more. Mother even said she's going to find me a husband to live with us, so I can enjoy life at home. Her eyes held undisguised malice. By the way, isn't the young master Zhao, who is engaged to you in a childhood marriage, a minor general? How pitiful you are, sister. After all, on the battlefield, swords and arrows have no eyes. Who knows, you might become a widow one day. Before she could finish her words, I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. Qin Baoju covered her cheek, looking at me in shock. How dare you hit me? I'm going to tell father and mother. I sneered coldly. Qin Baoju, my marriage to Zhaoing is meant to support father in the imperial court. Today, you dared to curse my fiancé like this. Hitting you is already lenient. If these words were to reach old General Zhao's ears, no matter how much father and mother dote on you, I'm afraid you wouldn't escape the family punishment and would have to endure 30 lashes. Qin Baoju glared at me angrily and turned to run towards the corner of the street. I frowned. Although I didn't like Qin Baoju at all, she was, after all, my nominal sister. If this brat got into trouble, my parents would definitely blame me. Irritated, I lifted the hem of my skirt and chased after her. When Qin Baoju reached a clothing store and the female shopkeeper came out to greet her, she clearly hesitated for a moment. I stared at them for a long time, astonished to realize that the female shopkeeper was none other than the wet nurse who had been driven out of the Prime Minister's residence years ago. Just as the shopkeeper was tearfully taking Qin Baoju's hand, I appeared at the shop entrance with my maidservant. Baoju, why did you run so fast? Come with me back home. Father will be worried if he can't find us. The shopkeeper's expression changed several times, and reluctantly, she let go of Qin Baoju's hand. Qin Baoju's face showed a mix of confusion and sadness. She glanced at the shopkeeper one last time before following me out of the tailor's shop. Sister, are you here to take me back to the Prime Minister's residence? A frail girl suddenly darted out from the shop, her bony arms tightly wrapping around my waist. I instinctively pushed away those bony hands. The girl fell to the ground, and when she looked up again, her face was covered in scars. She cried and laughed, clutching the hem of my skirt tightly and refusing to let go. Sister, I know I was wrong. Please, take me with you. Look at the wounds on my face. They were all made by the wet nurse with needles, hot spatulas, and small knives. I stared at her intently. Through those hideous scars, I recognized her as my own sister from my past life, Qin Huani, who had repaid kindness with betrayal. She actually has memories from her past life in this lifetime. This is really wonderful. The female shopkeeper rushed out in a panic, grabbing her arm and dragging her into the shop. Shut up, don't disturb the peace of the esteemed guests. I'm going to beat you to death today, you little lunatic spouting nonsense. I gave a meaningful glance to the maid Chenner, who came from a martial arts school. Chenner immediately pulled the female shopkeeper away and shielded Qin Huani behind her. I glanced at the female shopkeeper. This is my first time in your shop. If this young lady and I are complete strangers, why would she call me sister? And how would she know I come from the Prime Minister's residence? Whether she is truly mad or not will be clear once I take her back to the residence and question her. If you insist on stopping me, then I will report this strange incident to the authorities. After all, she claims the scars on her face were all caused by you. The female shopkeeper's face turned deathly pale, and she swayed unsteadily. Qin Baoju disdainfully pursed her lips. Sister, are you really going to bring this ugly creature back to the Prime Minister's residence? Qin Huani glared hatefully at Qin Baoju, muttering under her breath, you little wretch, occupying someone else's place. I curled my lips into a smile, pretending not to have heard anything when The three of us reached the Prime Minister's carriage. Father anxiously pulled Qin Baozhu aside. Baozhu, where have you been? How could you go wandering around without bringing any servants? What if you encountered bad people? Qin Baozhu gave an unnatural smile. I just went shopping for clothes with my sister. Her father handed her a wooden box. These are the pearl hair ornaments you wanted. Put them on when you get home and show them to me. Qin Baozhu happily carried the box onto the carriage. Seeing the impostor receive such affection from her father, Qin Huani behind me clenched her fists with a sinister look in her eyes. As soon as she returned to the Prime Minister's residence, Qin Baozhu couldn't wait to rush back to her bedroom to try on her new headpiece. Meanwhile, Qin Huani, who had followed behind the carriage like a little maid and walked back to the Prime Minister's residence on her own 2 feet, knelt tearfully before her father. Father, her voice was delicate, weak, and filled with sorrow, truly pitiful. Father frowned as he looked at Qin Huani. What did you call me? She raised her scarred little face, her eyes blurred with tears. Father, I am your mother's biological daughter. Back then, the wet nurse swapped me with her own daughter in the swaddling clothes. Now, the second young lady of the Prime Minister's residence is the wet nurse's real daughter. While I have endured 15 years of torment under her abuse, I tugged at Chenner's sleeve and nodded my chin towards mother's courtyard. Chenner immediately understood my meaning and turned to leave. Father was so shocked by Qin Huaner's words that he couldn't speak for a long time. His cloudy old eyes, however, began to scrutinize her closely. I pretended to be troubled and looked at Father. Father, I was pestered by this girl at the tailor's shop. I've never seen her before. Yet she insists that I come from the Prime Minister's residence. Moreover, if you ignore the scars all over her face, her appearance is indeed about 70% similar to mine. Father's expression changed several times, but he remained silent for a long while. At that moment, Chenner hurriedly brought Mother over. As soon as Qin Huani caught sight of Mother, her tears flowed even more fiercely. Mother stared blankly at Qin Huani for a long moment, then suddenly let out a mournful cry and fainted. This matter quickly alarmed the grandmother, who was recuperating in a separate courtyard. Grandmother hurried back to the Prime Minister's residence, first inviting a doctor to examine her mother's illness, and then arranging a blood-matching ceremony. After confirming that Qin Huani was the true second young lady of the Prime Minister's residence, she immediately sent someone to invite the former wet nurse and dress shop owner, Lu Xiyue, into the residence. Perhaps knowing there was no way out, Lu Xiyue unexpectedly confessed everything she had done. Facing the angry crowd from the Prime Minister's residence, she laughed as if she had nothing left to lose. Lord Qin, back then, you coveted my beauty and, in order to force me to spend a night with you, sent someone to kill my husband. I became a helpless widow, and after you coaxed me into giving birth to a child, I became the wet nurse for your legitimate eldest daughter. But even after your legitimate second daughter was born, you still refused to give me a proper status. My daughter is also your flesh and blood. Why must she remain an illegitimate child? Why have you ignored her all this time? Later, I learned that Lady Qin was notorious in the capital for her jealousy, and 6 concubines had already died before me. If I had entered the household as a concubine, my daughter and I would have been doomed. Lu Xiyue's eyes were frighteningly red. Lady Qin, how does it feel to have doted on the wrong daughter? Lord Qin, does it hurt to have your household in turmoil? You forced me into this. Mother's hands trembled as she traced the scars on Qin Huan's face, her heart breaking with grief. Father's lips quivered, and he raised his sleeve to cover his face. Qin Baozhu looked terrified at Lu Xiyue kneeling on the ground. I'm not your daughter. I'm the daughter of the Prime Minister's wife. Father, Mother, quickly drive this madwoman away. Grandmother sighed deeply, her eyes filled with utter disappointment. Baozhu, I never thought you would be so heartless as to disown your own mother. Qin Baozhu's face turned pale as she finally realized that her days of being spoiled and arrogant were over. 3 days later, Lu Xiyue was carried into the Prime Minister's residence in a small sedan chair. After all, she was the victim left behind by her father's misdeeds. Her grandmother forced her father to take her as a noble concubine and ordered her mother not to harm her life. However, Lu Xiyue's crimes of tormenting the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter could not be easily forgiven. After several rounds of corporal punishment from her mother, Lu Xiyue's waist was broken by the board, leaving her bedridden and dependent on others for care. To seek revenge, her mother sent 2 rough servants to torment her. Almost every night, I could hear Lu Xiyue's courtyard filled with painful wails and pleas for mercy. Whenever I think of the scars she left on my skin in my previous life, those sounds become incredibly pleasing to me. Days turned into weeks, and Lu Xiyue eventually died from the daily torment. The servants were unwilling to clean her body, leaving her lower half covered in filth. It is said that before her death, she exuded a foul stench, making the entire house unbearable to enter. From then on, that place became a forbidden area in the Prime Minister's residence, unvisited by anyone. With one of my past enemies dead, the resentment in my heart finally eased a little. To cover up the family scandal, my parents made Chin Huani the third daughter of the Prime Minister's residence when she was recognized and returned to her ancestral home. They publicly claimed that my mother had actually given birth to twin girls during her delivery. It was the enemy who bribed the midwife to take away the third daughter and abandon her in the mountains, leaving her to fend for herself. Fortunately, a village woman found her and raised her. Now, after all these twists and turns, she has been recognized and returned. My parents didn't hold a recognition banquet, nor did they compensate Chin Huani in any way. After all this life's Chin Huani no longer has the bright and charming demeanor of her previous life. Not only has she been disfigured, but her tendons in her hands and feet were severed by Luciue when she was young. Even with memories of her past life, she can no longer play the piano or dance. Chin Huani is now just a daughter with no value to exploit. The stark difference in treatment between her past life and this one has twisted Chin Huani's heart even more. Whenever she sees Chin Baozhu, who has been pampered for 15 years, her eyes flash with undisguised resentment. When Chenner told me that Chin Huani had secretly bought a packet of aphrodisiacs from the black market, I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. This dog-eat-dog drama is finally about to begin. Although my mother knows the truth about Chin Baozhu's origins, the mother-daughter bond they've cultivated over the years makes it impossible for her to abandon this false daughter. My mother scolded and cried, but in the end, she simply considered herself to have given birth to 3 daughters. I had long grown accustomed to my parents' partiality and indifference, but Chin Huani and Chin Baozhu were like a needle to a wheat grain, each vying for their parents' favor in increasingly creative ways. The frequency of their quarrels grew, and Chin Huani had her maid slap her own face, then accused Chin Baozhu of bullying her. Chin Baozhu suffered in silence, but in a moment of desperation, she poisoned herself. Vomiting blood while sobbing in her mother's arms, I quietly bribed the rough maids of both, and handed over the evidence of their mutual accusations to my parents. The drama of sibling rivalry turned the faces of the father and mother pale. That night, Chin Baozhu and Chin Huani each received 20 strokes of the hand and were locked in the ancestral hall to kneel as punishment. Whenever I passed by the gate of the ancestral hall, I could hear the 2 sisters inside cursing each other through gritted teeth. The servants who delivered meals said that Chin Huani and Chin Baozhu looked at each other with such hatred, it was as if they wanted to devour the other's flesh and sleep on their skin. Half a month later, father held a grand birthday banquet for grandmother's 70th birthday. Her grandmother hailed from a military family and, as the esteemed Mingying Junju, had once served as a companion to the eldest princess in her youth, even accompanying the crown prince to battle. Despite the passage of time that had turned her hair white, her elegance remained undiminished. The guests who attended the banquet were all high-ranking officials and nobles. Even the crown prince and the third prince were present. The birthday banquet was filled with joy and celebration. I sat together with Chin Baozhu, who had been released from the ancestral hall, and Chin Huani. The 3 daughters of the Prime Minister's household finally appeared together. Chin Baozhu, adorned with jewels and wearing a pink silk dress, looked exceptionally charming and alluring, and Chin Huani covered her face with a veil, revealing only a pair of delicate apricot eyes, which added a touch of charm and mystery. On the surface, the 2 of them were all smiles, but in their eyes flowed only schemes. Halfway through the banquet, Chin Huani suddenly took the wine pot from the maid's hand, looking apologetic as she poured wine for Chin Baozhu. Second sister, I was immature before. Today I toast you with this cup, hoping you can forgive me. Chin Baozhu was the type who responded to gentleness rather than force. Seeing Chin Huani humbling herself to apologize, she felt a bit elated. Third sister, no need to apologize, we are all family, what's there to forgive or not forgive? With that, she took the cup of wine and drank it all in one go. Chin Huani's voice grew even more submissive. Second sister, you have such a generous spirit, I truly admire you. I picked up a piece of cherry glazed duck and put it in my mouth, my gaze casually sweeping toward the distance. To my shock, I realized that Zhaoying, my ill-fated fiancé from my past life, was staring at me without blinking. At that moment, my heart seemed to skip a beat. Just as I was busy calming my fluttering heart, Chin Baozhu beside me suddenly let out a delicate cry. I feel so dizzy, Chor, help me out to sober up. Chin Huani smiled with her eyes curved. She pushed aside Chin Baozhu's personal maid, Chor, and grabbed hold of Chin Baozhu's arm. Good sister, I'll accompany you to sober Up, Qin Baoju's cheeks were flushed with an abnormal redness, and she was actually led away by Qin Huani. Seeing this, Qiu'er couldn't help but grow anxious. Second miss, wait for your servant. Qin Huani's maid, Xiaohe, grabbed Qiu'er's wrist. All right, the third Yin lady wants to have a private chat with the second Yin lady. What business does a maid like you have joining in? I put down my chopsticks with a half smile. There are too many people at the birthday banquet. I'm feeling a bit stifled. Chenner, accompany me to the garden for some fresh air. The frail Qin Huani used all her strength to support the plump and fair Qin Baoju, walking very slowly. I quickly caught up with them and hid nearby to watch secretly. Qin Huani kicked open the door of the side room with a sinister smile, pushed Qin Baoju inside, then tightly closed the door and hurried away, lifting the hem of her skirt. I waited until the sound of her footsteps completely faded away, then tiptoed to the half-open window of the side room. Inside, I saw a tall coachman standing there, currently holding Qin Baoju in a drunken embrace and kissing her recklessly. Chenner frowned and whispered to me, Miss, this coachman is named Jiang Shua, a notorious playboy. He spends his entire monthly allowance on courtesans and has visited nearly every brothel in the capital. A few days ago, when I went to the clinic for irregular menstruation, I happened to see him getting a prescription from the doctor. I heard he contracted a venereal disease. That sexually transmitted disease is terrifying. The prescription can only alleviate the symptoms, not cure it. Those who contract it almost all die from systemic necrosis. Watching the moving figures of Jiang Shua and Qin Baoju in the room, I subconsciously took a step back. Qin Huan's malice is even worse than in my previous life. I quickly walked towards the koi pond not far away. Chenner, hurry and call Mr. Zhao to meet me here. Qin Huani dared to drug Qin Baoju at their grandmother's birthday banquet and then had a syphilitic groom assault her. This deranged madwoman, in order to save her own skin, would certainly make wild accusations, and I, as the eldest sister sitting at the same table with them, would be the perfect scapegoat. I needed someone to help prove my innocence. Before long, Zhaoing was brought by Chenner. As soon as he saw me, his eyes turned red. Sui, as if 1,000 words were stuck in his throat, he took a deep breath and finally calmed down. Miss Qin, what matter do you wish to discuss with me? I glanced at him somewhat awkwardly, gesturing for him to lean in closer. I told him all about the grievances I had suffered in the Prime Minister's residence and what Qin Huani had done. Zhao Ying's expression turned extremely dark. Although it said that family scandals should not be aired in public, young Master Zhao is my fiancé, and I trust you. Could you lend me a female covert guard? My voice carried a hint of a sob. Zhaoing nodded, looking at me with eyes full of heartache. Sui, please endure a little longer. By the 3rd day of next month, I will no longer need to observe mourning for my stepmother, and I will come to marry you immediately. With that, he gently clapped his hands, and a female covert guard descended from the treetops. I whispered a few instructions, and the covert guard nodded in acknowledgement, immediately rushing toward Qin Huani's bedroom. Suddenly, a clamor of footsteps echoed from the direction of the side chamber. Qin Huani feigned panic and cried out, Second sister, are you all right? You just told me you wanted to sober up alone and insisted on sending me away, but why haven't you returned to the banquet? I'm so worried about you. Second sister, what are you doing? Zhaoing and I exchanged a glance, then walked together toward the side chamber. I saw several Yen masters and ladies gathered in front of the side room. Qin Huani was sitting on the ground with a terrified expression. Second sister, you actually, with the estate's coachman. A Yen lady covered her face with her sleeve in disgust. The second Yen lady of the Prime Minister's estate is so shameless, to do such a thing with a servant at her grandmother's birthday banquet. Pa, the girl in the green dress beside her frowned. I heard that the second Miss Qin is the most favored. I was even thinking of having my brother marry into the Prime Minister's estate. Fortunately, I injured my hand the day I planned to discuss the marriage. The wedding didn't happen, or else my brother's life would have been ruined. A Yen master covered half his face with a fan. Hiss, why does this coachman have sores all over his body? Everyone stepped back in unison, and I took a few steps forward. I saw Qin Baoju on the bed, seductively wrapping her arms around the coachman's neck, while several festering sores were visible on the coachman's back. Suddenly, a furious roar came from behind. Enough, everyone, stop looking. The next moment, my mother rushed into the room in a flurry, kicked the coachman aside, and tightly covered Qin Baoju with a robe. Seeing my mother protect Qin Baoju like this, the resentment in Qin Huani's eyes grew even more intense. After everyone dispersed, Grandma and Father finally arrived. Father, looking at Qin Baoju who was still unconscious, couldn't hold back his tears. Baoju, you are the pearl in Father's palm. Why did such a misfortune befall you? Grandma's eyes were sharp. I see that Baoju's condition is due to being drugged. Someone, call the family doctor. After a whole afternoon of commotion, Qin Baoju finally regained consciousness. When she learned that she had been violated by a coachman infected with syphilis, she wept, threw a fit, and even threatened to hang herself in her chamber, throwing the entire Prime Minister's mansion into chaos. The court physician diagnosed Qin Baoju as having been drugged with a love potion. Father was furious and immediately ordered the housekeeper to conduct a thorough investigation. Soon, Qin Huani's maid, Xiaohe, was brought forward. Xiaohe knelt on the ground, weeping and sobbing, but her eyes were fixed intently on me. Young miss, I have done as you instructed. I applied the love potion to second Mrs. Winecup. Please, young miss, release my parents. I am willing to face any punishment, even death. You have always resented the master and mistress for favoring the second young lady, but now she has been defiled and likely contracted a filthy disease. She is already so pitiful. Please, I beg you, stop this. The room fell into a terrifying silence in an instant. Father's face darkened with fury, while Mother's eyes turned red. See, your father and I may have favored Baoju a bit more, but she is still your sister. How could you be so cruel? Qin Baoju's sobbing paused for a moment. She grabbed the medicine bowl beside her and threw it at me. You vile woman. You ruined me. I smiled and turned my head to avoid the bowl. Xiaohe, you say I asked you to poison my second sister. Do you have any evidence? Xiaohe's eyes flickered with panic. You gave me 80 taels of silver, and you told me to poison the stable hand Jiangshua, so that when the second young lady gets into trouble, Jiangshua would soon die from the poison. Qin Huani looked at me with eyes full of terror. Eldest sister, did you bribe my personal maid to harm our third sister? So that after the deed is done, you can shift the blame onto me and escape unscathed. I looked into Qin Huani's eyes and suddenly felt a surge of disgust and irritation. I didn't want to say much, so I just clapped my hands twice. A woman in black walked in from outside the room, holding a small porcelain vial and a confession written in blood in one hand, while dragging a barely breathing man in white with the other. Qin Huani froze completely. I brought the confession and the porcelain vial. Before my parents, father, mother, third sister went to the black market a few days ago to buy a love potion. This confession was written by the drug seller, and this vial of medicine was found by the hidden guards in third sister's bedroom. Young Master Zhao was afraid I would be bullied in the Prime Minister's residence, so he specially assigned me a female bodyguard for close protection. These evidences were all found by the bodyguard for me. Father looked at Qin Huani in disbelief and slapped her hard across the face. The veil was knocked off, revealing Qin Huani's disfigured face to everyone. She screamed and covered her face in embarrassment. Yes, today's incident was my slander against my elder sister. Everything was done by me. I hate Qin Baoju. I hate her for occupying my rightful position as the eldest daughter and acting like a tyrant in the Prime Minister's residence. My face was disfigured by Qin Baoju's birth mother, and I wanted to take revenge on Qin Baoju. Mother, I am your own daughter. Why won't you drive Qin Baoju out? She is just a lowly wretch born from a concubine. Mother looked painfully at Qin Huan's face. Unable to speak for a long time, I said indifferently, so, the third sister sent a maid to drug and ruin Qin Baoju's body, wanting her to become as imperfect as you, and you are pushing this evil deed onto me, so that I can be disfavored by our parents. In this way, the three daughters of the Prime Minister's household will hold equal weight in their parents' eyes. Qin Huani, you truly are a master schemer. Grandmother stood at the doorway at some point, closing her eyes briefly. When siblings in a family are at odds, it is often due to the lack of virtue among the elders. If you, as parents, could treat your daughters fairly, how could such troubles arise among them? Enough, for the sake of the reputation of the other unmarried girls in the Qin family. Baoju will be sent to the family temple. As for Huani, whose appearance has been ruined, I will find her a minor official as a husband. After all, the dowry from the Prime Minister's household is more than sufficient. Father and mother tearfully accepted grandmother's arrangement. That night, Qin Baoju was forced by the nanny to drink a large bowl of abortion medicine and was locked in the family temple overnight. 7 days later, Qin Huani tearfully sat into the sedan chair sent by the 8th rank official, leaving with 32 boxes of dowry. On the 8th morning, grandmother suffered from a heart condition and fell into a coma on her sickbed. I tended to my grandmother day and night for a month without even changing my clothes, until she finally opened her eyes. Seeing me, she pulled me into her arms and said, Sui, why do you trouble yourself so much? Just let the servants take care of me. As long as you marry that Zhao boy properly, I will be at ease. Looking at my grandmother's loving smile, tears welled up in my eyes. In my previous life, my parents despised me for my plain appearance and locked me away in a side room, forbidding me from going out or being seen. My grandmother had a huge argument with them, took me away from the Prime Minister's residence, and moved into a separate courtyard. Grandmother cherished me dearly. She spent a fortune to hire a female tutor to teach me music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. I am exceptionally talented, having written excellent poetry and even published a highly popular collection of poems under the pseudonym Mr. Wu. This air of mystery and my literary prowess quickly made me famous throughout the capital. Aside from this disfigured face of mine, I am considered the capital's foremost talented woman. Later, my uneducated younger sister, Qin Huani, accidentally discovered that I was the Mr. Wu while visiting our grandmother, and she immediately harbored malicious intentions because she had her eyes on my fiancé, Zhaoing. All the noble ladies in the capital knew that General Zhao favored talented women the most. Qin Huani previously had no idea that I was Mr. Wu, and she believed that her stunning beauty would surely surpass mine, allowing her to steal Zhaoing away. But now she has realized that I am the formidable rival standing in the way of her pursuit of love. She had me knocked out and kidnapped, forced a bottle of muting potion down my throat herself, and then took away my newly composed poems. With great satisfaction, she showcased them at the spring banquet. However, as soon as Qin Huani finished reciting the poems, Zhao Ying's expression turned extremely grim. He insisted on having Qin Huani compose a poem on the spot, but Qin Huani was so anxious that her eyes turned red, yet she couldn't write anything. Zhao Ying sneered, "Are these poems truly your own work?" Qin Huani, feeling a bit guilty, coquettishly replied, "Brother Zhao, I have been diligently studying Mr. Wu's works these past few days, which is how I managed to write these poems. I just lack inspiration today." Seeing this, her father and mother immediately stepped in to protect Qin Huani and escorted her away from the gathering. However, this incident made Qin Huani begin to hate Zhaoing. When I came of age and returned to live in the Prime Minister's residence, she tricked Zhaoing into going to my room and then set a fire that killed us both. Although I lacked parental love in my youth, my grandmother cherished me as a treasure. My grandmother never gave up on me. She constantly sent people to seek miraculous scar-removing medicines, never minding even if it cost her a large portion of her dowry. She also often found opportunities for me to meet Zhaoing from behind a screen, supported me in gaining fame in the capital under the identity of Mr. Wu, and worked hard to maintain the marriage alliance between me and the Zhao family. Good see, don't cry. In my dowry, there's a set of ruby hair ornaments bestowed by the Empress herself. They're so beautiful. When you get married, I'll add them to your dowry. My grandmother's voice brought me back from my memories. Although I grew up in the Prime Minister's residence in this life, I often visited my grandmother at her villa, and she treated me the same as in my previous life. I wiped away my tears, leaned into my grandmother's embrace, and smiled through my tears. "Grandmother, you're the best to see." Zhaoing is a man of his word, and he soon came to propose marriage on the 10th day of the next month, an auspicious day, perfect for marriage. I sat in the Zhao family's bridal sedan chair wearing a Suzhou embroidery wedding dress. The dragon and phoenix candles illuminated the entire night, and I finally became Zhao Ying's wife. Compared to life in the Prime Minister's residence, my days in General Zhao's mansion were truly much happier. Now, I have no mother-in-law, and my father-in-law is stationed at the northern border. The vast general's mansion has only me as the mistress, free and at ease, utterly content. On our wedding night, Zhaoing handed over the steward's badge and the keys to his private treasury to me. Sometimes I can't help but pinch my arm, because I'm afraid I'm dreaming. Only when I feel the clear pain on my arm do I realize that I'm truly living such a good life. One evening, Zhaoing noticed the bruises on my arm and his face darkened immediately when I awkwardly confessed my worries. Zhaoing actually shed tears. He applied the medicine for me with immense guilt, and tried to carve out more time to keep me company, so I wouldn't overthink and harm myself again. Time flew by, and soon it was the Mid-Autumn Festival. Father planned to host a family banquet and even sent an invitation to the general's mansion. I hadn't seen my grandmother in months and missed her dearly, so on the day of the festival, I dragged Zhaoing back to the Prime Minister's residence. As soon as we stepped through the main gate, we witnessed quite a spectacle. Qin Baozhu, adorned with jewels, shyly hid behind her brother-in-law Song Ke, her eyes brimming with unconcealed pride. Qin Huan's eyes turned red with anger, so much so that she didn't even notice her veil falling to the ground. "Song Ke, you scoundrel, how dare you secretly keep my second sister as a concubine?" Song Ke frowned in disgust. "Put your veil back on first." Qin Huan felt as if she had been punched, frozen in place, tears streaming down her face. "You also find me ugly. How can you find me Ugly, I am your wife who helped you rise to the rank of 4th grade official. Songka seemed to have reached his limit. If it weren't for your dowry and the pressure from the Prime Minister, I would never have married such an ugly woman. Today, you can accompany my parents yourself. I'm taking Baoju to buy jewelry. With that, Songka put his arm around Qin Baoju and turned to leave. Qin Huani curled her lips into a faint smile, then suddenly drew a dagger from her sleeve and plunged it into Songka's back. Immediately after, she grabbed Qin Baoju by the collar and drove the blood-stained dagger into her heart. The courtyard of the Prime Minister's residence was instantly flooded with blood. It wasn't until Qin Huani ran towards us that Zhao finally reacted. Snatching the dagger from her hand, I subtly curled my lips into a smile. It was worth spending a fortune to dismiss the guards watching over the ancestral temple and having Chenner pose as a matchmaker to arrange a liaison between Songku and Qin Baoju. Once they had consummated their relationship, the Song family would inevitably have to welcome her through the door. Even if Qin Huani didn't kill anyone today, it seemed that she and Qin Baoju were destined to be at odds in the Song residence, leading to a life of constant turmoil. A moment later, accompanied by the weeping of her parents, Zhao escorted Qin Huani to the authorities. Upon learning of the tragedy that occurred during the mid-autumn family banquet, grandmother merely sighed, fingered her prayer beads, and knelt before the bodhisattva to recite a few Buddhist chants. On the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the full moon hung high in the sky, while her parents sat numbly before a table of fine dishes, like two puppets who had lost their souls. I don't like this atmosphere, so I decide to take Xiaoying to a restaurant for a good meal. As I stood up, my mother suddenly grabbed my hand. Sui, we are sorry for you, it's all our fault for being too partial to our younger daughter and neglecting you, the elder sister. I gently pried her hand off with a light laugh. Perhaps I was born with shallow familial bonds, and I've long had no expectations of you. I'm not particularly upset now either, mother. I bid you farewell. A suppressed sob came from the room, and the night wind made my cheeks feel icy cold. 10 days later, Qin Huani was sentenced to beheading for slaughtering his siblings. Mother pawned all her dowry, and father begged around to secure Qin Huani's life, but from that day on, Qin Huani could only live in hiding, working as a kitchen maid in a manor on the outskirts of the capital. However, this act of deceiving the emperor reached his ears, and the emperor was furious. Out of respect for father's past contributions, he demoted him to a commoner and ordered him to retire with mother and return to their hometown. After the full moon banquet for my and Zhao Ying's eldest son, I lay down on the imperial concubine's couch for a nap. Chenner suddenly whispered in my ear, "Madam, the second young lady is gone." The servant girl heard that she hanged herself with a belt at the entrance of the manor. When she died, her tongue stuck out so long, it was terrifying. The great revenge was finally avenged, and I exhaled the last bit of pent-up resentment from my heart. Looking at my son babbling in the cradle, I gently curved my eyes, thinking that from now on, every day would be a good one. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My best friend is bound to a system that allows her to obtain my college entrance exam scores as long as I trust her wholeheartedly, but she doesn't know that I have been reborn. On the day of the exam, I deliberately handed in a blank paper, and she failed to get into college. She still refuses to give up and continues to deceive me. Both of us underperformed this time. Let's repeat the year together, but I got a guaranteed admission. On the day the college entrance exam results came out, I was stunned. This can't be my score. It's only a little over 10 points. I estimated my score should have been enough to get into J University. I applied to check the exam paper, only to find that the one with my handwriting was almost entirely blank. I didn't believe it and requested to review the surveillance footage from the exam room, but the video was full of static. I realized it might be a conspiracy, but I had no evidence. Dazed, I walked out of the education bureau, and a car came crashing toward me. After the pain, I felt my soul leave my body. It was a real out-of-body experience, because I saw my own body lying on the road, covered in blood. A large crowd had gathered around, and among them, I saw my best friend and the person I like walking hand in hand. My best friend said to George with a beaming smile, "Now, we can finally be together openly." After hearing their conversation, I instantly understood. It turned out that everything was actually done by my best friend. She bound herself to a system that promised a stunning success in the college entrance exam, using my trust to secretly swap my scores. The person I liked deceived me into giving up my guaranteed admission spot. Also, they could attend J University with my best friend. The two of them publicly announced their relationship, making everyone envious. I, on the other hand, was Left utterly defeated, the moment I regained consciousness, I realized I had actually been reborn just before the college entrance exam. In the office, the homeroom teacher looked at me with a grave expression. "Anna, have you thought it through? Are you sure you want to give up the guaranteed admission spot? There's only one guaranteed admission spot to J University in the entire school. Without a doubt, it belongs to you. But if you insist on taking the college entrance exam, I will respect your decision." "No, teacher, I don't want to give up the guaranteed admission spot." I quickly calmed down. "But teacher, can this matter be kept confidential?" "Yes, students with guaranteed admission have the right to protect their privacy." "Thank you, teacher." After saying that, I left the office. As I reached the stairwell, someone grabbed my arm. It was George, the person I liked in my past life. He looked somewhat anxious. "Did the teacher talk to you about the recommendation for admission?" "No." I pretended to look completely clueless. "The teacher asked me how I've been doing lately and if I'm confident about the college entrance exam." "Why do you ask? That doesn't make sense. By this time, the recommended candidate should have been confirmed, and it's definitely going to be you from our school." "I really don't know. Maybe the time hasn't come yet." "Anna, you can definitely get into J University on your own. I'm just a bit short, so could you let me have the guaranteed admission spot? That way, we can both meet at J University." "Really, George? Yeah, we can't date in high school, but we can in college." "Then it's settled. If it were me, I would definitely tell you." Looking at his hypocritical face, I couldn't help but feel puzzled. In my past life, how could I have thought he was handsome and sincere, only to be completely fooled by him? Returning to the classroom, I saw my best friend Kathy sitting in my seat. "Anna, what did the homeroom teacher want? Are you okay?" In my previous life, I trusted her a lot by this time, so I told her about the guaranteed admission. She persuaded me to take the college entrance exam with her, saying that best friends should go into battle together, and I happily agreed in the end. "Nothing much. By the way, it's almost the weekend. Are we still going to your place to do homework?" "Of course," Kathy agreed readily. I live in a residential house that is quite noisy, so she often invites me to study at her place, offering an umbrella in the rain, accompanying me at all times. She slowly earned my trust through these small details in life, just as she did in a past life. We were in the middle of a conversation when a cold male voice suddenly interrupted us. "Move aside. This aloof handsome guy is my desk mate Jack, and his grades are on par with mine. Kathy really dislikes him and often speaks ill of him around me. She says he is cold-hearted and petty, that he sits with me just to surpass me, and that he holds a grudge against me. In my previous life, I believed every word she said. As a result, I have always been lukewarm toward Jack. It wasn't until the farewell dinner for our teachers in my previous life that I was mocked by my classmates. Oh, even the top student makes mistakes sometimes. Wrong. Making a mistake wouldn't result in a 0. I suspect she cheated on all her previous exams. She's on such good terms with Kathy, and Kathy, as a prospective student at J University, must have passed her the answers. How embarrassing. How does she still have the face to come to the teacher appreciation dinner? Kathy was fanning the flames from the side. Don't say that about Anna. She must have her own reasons. At that time, I was quite touched and thought she was helping me, but now, looking back, it feels like she was just shutting me down with that comment. At that moment, Jack stepped forward. "Even if she scores 0, she's still better than all of you," Jack affirmed. "Besides, it's impossible for her to score 0. I believe in her." I remember being quite surprised at the time that he would help me, especially since we had always been competitors. After that day, I became a celebrity at school, and everywhere I went, people would mock me, while others were kicking me when I was down. It was Jack who asked his father's friend to help me check my exam results and review the surveillance footage at the Education Bureau. Although the outcome wasn't ideal, I still feel grateful to him. "The exam is almost here, and you're still not taking it seriously." "Having so much fun here." Jack's voice interrupted my memories. I said to him half-jokingly, "You're one to talk. If you could be a bit more serious, you would have surpassed me long ago." He was taken aback, clearly not expecting it, especially since I usually ignore him. Just wait and see for the last mock exam." "So this is the tone he usually speaks in. Really makes you want to punch him." Looking forward to it. On Saturday morning, Kathy came to pick me up on her electric scooter and thoughtfully put a helmet on me. She always manages to find these little details that touch my heart. As we walked to the entrance of her building, an elderly woman greeted Kathy. "Kathy, bringing a friend over again." "Grandma, this isn't just any friend. She's the top student at our school, my best friend, and a future student at J University." "Is that so? Then she must be really impressive, super impressive." "You have no idea. I've never even seen her study, but she always gets top scores." Grandma looked a bit awkward and pulled her aside to whisper, "Could she be cheating? You should stay away from such a bad influence from now on." I could tell what my grandmother was thinking just by looking at her expression. Suddenly, I realized that Kathy always puts me on the spot when she talks that way. When I don't do well on a test, people will think I cheated. Don't say that, Kathy. I've always been the type who has to work harder to get ahead. I pretended to be aggrieved and took the opportunity to lower my trust level a bit. Speaking of trust levels, I deduced from Kathy's expression that as long as I feigned a low mood, the trust level would drop, and if I said something touching, it would rise. So her system must be the most basic, unable to read people's hearts. Sure enough, her expression changed immediately, and she quickly tried to make amends, saying, yes, it's my fault for not trying hard enough. I misspoke. You're the most hardworking person ever, something the entire school's teachers and students all know. After saying that, she took me by the hand and we headed home. Kathy's mom saw me, her face beaming with a warm smile. "Anna's here. Come have some fruit. Auntie made your favorite braised pork today." "Auntie, thank you. The college entrance exam is coming up soon, so you really need to help Kathy more these days. In my previous life, Auntie was always very kind to me. She asked me to supervise Kathy and help her with her studies. I always tried my best to help her, but she never took it seriously. She would say she wanted to work hard in secret and amaze everyone. At that time, I was still surprised that her grades hadn't improved at all. Turns out she had such an underhanded cheat code. Mom, don't worry. I've been studying hard with Anna lately. Maybe I can even get into J University for you. Getting into J University. If you can get into a first-tier university for me, I'll be thanking my lucky stars. Auntie, Kathy is only 300 points away from getting into a top-tier university, which isn't much. However, she hasn't been studying very seriously lately. She might have something on her mind, so please pay close attention to her emotional state." "Anna, you betrayed me. Didn't you promise not to tell my mom?" she said in disbelief. I looked at her innocently. "I did it for your own good." As I said those words, it suddenly occurred to me, isn't that Kathy's catchphrase? In my past life, she always used that as an excuse to emotionally manipulate me. While studying, Kathy kept getting distracted, and I knew she was talking to the system. These past few days, my trust level has been fluctuating, and she must be anxious about it. By the time we headed back, it was already dark, and Kathy, as usual, walked me home. As we passed through an alley near our neighborhood, a few thugs suddenly rushed in and blocked the electric scooter, causing Kathy to brake abruptly. The thug roared menacingly, "Who is Anna? Come out. Someone sent us to take care of you." Before I could speak, Kathy stopped me. "These people don't look like good folks at all. They seem like desperados. Are they going to kill you? But don't worry, we're best friends. If anything happens, I'll definitely protect you." As she spoke, she pulled me behind her. Seeing this familiar scene, I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, she had said the same thing. Back then, I felt she was truly sincere to me and was deeply moved. She got injured protecting me, and I brought her meals for half a month, taking care of her like royalty. Now it seems like she orchestrated all of this herself, probably laughing at me like a fool back then. Now that my mind is clear, I realize this whole thing was full of flaws. Since you invited me to watch the show, I won't hold back. "No, Kathy, how could I let you take the hit for me?" Kathy said earnestly. "We are best friends. Of course I would go to great lengths for you." I thought to myself, who would wait for you to put on such a long performance before fighting? As if hearing this, Kathy gave a meaningful glance to the group of troublemakers. The thugs, taking the hint, immediately raised their clubs and knives, pretending to advance toward us. I pulled Kathy to dodge left and right, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw her stretching her left leg toward the club. In that case, I gave a sudden pull, and her leg was grazed by the knife while her arm was struck by the club with a crack. Kathy cried out in pain and immediately went limp. The thugs clearly didn't expect to hurt her and were caught off guard. I seized the moment to threaten them. "I've already recorded a video. You hurt my best friend, and I'm going to call the police. I'm sure the officers will catch the mastermind behind this." Both the thugs and Kathy were stunned, clearly not expecting this turn of events. "No," Kathy stopped them despite the pain, then realized that what she said sounded a bit strange, so she added, "I'm not badly hurt, and you're not injured either. Let's just let them go. I believe they must have their own difficulties. It's not easy being a troublemaker, but your injury..." I looked at her and said with concern, "I'm not in pain. I've already forgiven them. Were you forced to do bad things?" Kathy gave the thugs a meaningful look. Yes, sorry. Please don't call the police," the thugs quickly said. "It seems these people aren't real thugs after all. They're so easily intimidated." In that case, you can go, just don't let me see you again in the future. The thugs fled in panic, and I helped Kathy up. Kathy, you're really so kind. It seems I made the right choice in befriending you. We're the best of friends. But did you delete the video you took? What video? I didn't even bring my phone, remember? Oh, that's good. No, I mean, alright then, stop talking. I'll take you to the hospital. Thanks to you today. I'm really grateful. She smiled so much her eyes turned into slits. Her trust level must have risen quite a bit. See, this is her lifeline, and now, it's in my hands. Kathy was quite badly injured and took a week off. I used this week to focus on studying, especially since we had 10 to 20 test papers every day. Without concentration, it would have been impossible to finish them all. On Friday at noon, George asked to meet me on the rooftop, saying he had something to discuss. Anna, is the matter of the guaranteed admission still uncertain? He immediately asked anxiously. I haven't received any notice yet. Seeing my indifferent expression, he quickly changed his attitude. Anna, the teacher said this weekend is the last break before the college entrance exam, so let's go hiking on Saturday to relax and prepare better for the exam. Sure, I was just thinking about unwinding too. This guy is also trying to deceive me into trusting him. Just go with a light load, leave the rest to me. He acted very considerate and gentlemanly. Thank you, George, you're so good to me. I remembered that in my past life, I liked him. After hearing him suggest meeting at J University, I was so excited that I couldn't control myself and easily gave up my spot to him, so there was no mountain climbing involved, so I need to prepare well and not let him get through tomorrow easily. So on Friday evening, when I went to deliver those 100 or so exam papers to Kathy, I took the opportunity to share this news with her. Oh my God. Is it George? He actually asked you out? Her expression of surprise and sadness was impossible to hide. No, I'm not at ease. The college entrance exam is almost here, and it's just the two of you, a guy and a girl alone. I'm coming along to protect you. What are you even talking about? It's just a hike, and besides, your injuries haven't fully healed yet. No, absolutely not. You two can't be alone together. She was clearly getting anxious. Why not? I pretended to be confused. Don't ask me why. I have to go with you. It's settled. Oh, all right, she said. With a happy expression, I smiled happily too, because I knew she liked George. It was her second lifeline. When they meet, it's definitely going to be another big drama. At the agreed time, I showed up wearing casual sportswear and carrying a backpack, only to find that Kathy had arrived with a full face of makeup, a little dress, and high heels. She really went all out to make a good impression on George. Hello, George, I'm Kathy, Anna's best friend. As if she didn't see me, she went straight to greeting George. Oh, I know you, the beautiful Kathy. What about your leg? I'm not as good at exams as Anna, and I don't have as many people liking me. I'm so happy you know me. My leg is fine now. It was injured last week while protecting Anna. You're both beautiful and brave. Look, they're so blatantly flirting with each other. How could I have been so blind in my past life and not noticed? Thank you, George, for friends. It's a duty I can't refuse. She playfully winked. Leave the bags to me, ladies. George reached out his hand. Okay, I handed him the heavy backpack. I knew you'd be the best at pretending, but I packed a lot of stuff in advance just to tire you out. You jerk. Anna, look at you. You're making George tired. I wouldn't make him carry it. The air was instantly filled with the rich aroma of tea. I looked at her innocently. Kathy, are you implying that George can't even carry such a small thing? George indeed looked rather displeased. Kathy's face turned green, and she forced a stiff smile. Of course not, I'm just worried about George. All the way, I pretended to be very close to George, and Kathy was indeed very upset. I knew she would definitely speed up her efforts to get close to George afterward, so I wished them the best in locking each other down. While hiking, I walked ahead with ease, while the two of them, one carrying a heavy load and the other wearing high heels, strolled slowly behind. Ouch! Kathy suddenly pretended to trip and fell right into George's arms. She looked at George with a shy and timid expression, making it seem as if they were filming a romantic drama. I quickly went down to help her up, but she waved me off. No need, Anna. I'm too heavy. You definitely can't support me. Let George help me instead. I'll do it. George is holding things and it's not convenient for him. How could I let her succeed so quickly? So I forcibly pulled her out of George's arms. We reached halfway up the mountain and found a pavilion. Unexpectedly, as we walked over, we saw an acquaintance. Jack, what are you doing here? Jack glanced around at the three of us and said in an annoyed tone, so this is what you meant by being busy on Saturday. I really don't have time. I already made plans with my classmates to go hiking together. How did you get so close to this hot-tempered guy? Kathy whispered to me, tugging on my clothes. Because he's handsome, I whispered softly. George, who was nearby, also heard it and suddenly moved closer to me. He must have sensed the danger. Jack came over to my side and casually pushed George away. Just happened to meet. Let's go together from now on. Sure, no. The three of us spoke at the same time, but George wasn't willing. In the end, we still set off together. Jack snatched my bag and walked ahead side by side with me. Not to be outdone, George also caught up and walked alongside, leaving Kathy limping behind alone. She must be furious. Jack was unusually talkative today and didn't stop chatting the whole way. How come I didn't know you were so talkative? I looked at him with amusement. Jack's expression was cold. There's a lot you don't know about me, such as, for example, you'll find out later. Look, Cloud Temple is here. He quickly changed the subject. Since we're here, let's go in and take a look. George walked over to me and said. I ignored him and walked in with Jack. George immediately followed. Not even hearing Kathy calling him from behind, I heard, "There's a 100-year-old wishing tree here. Let's go take a look," Jack said to me. "Anna doesn't believe in this," George hurriedly interjected before I could respond. I glanced at Kathy, who looked upset. Indeed, today's drama was quite entertaining. Well, that depends on who I'm going with. Let's go, I said to George. George was taken aback for a moment, then hurriedly followed. Kathy, wearing high heels, clattered along as she chased after him. The century-old tree truly exuded a sense of historical simplicity, adorned with red wish ribbons. We each wrote one. Anna, what did you write? Take a look at my wish. I glanced at it. It read, I hope Anna scores above 720 in the college entrance exam. She is so greedy. It's like she's trying to use my scores to become the top scholar. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was such a close friend. Kathy, you're so good to me. I'm really touched. Kathy pretended to be intimate and hugged my arm. Who told you to be my best friend? Let's see what wish George made. It wasn't until I mentioned George that she snapped back to reality and hurriedly looked at George's wish. George is competing for a guaranteed admission spot. That's amazing. Sure enough, George still has ulterior motives and wants to secure a spot for admission to J University next. Kathy and the other two will probably start colluding behind my back. I turned around to try and read Jack's wish note, but he was being evasive and wouldn't let me see it. I'll tell you later, but what's going on with those two? He glanced over at Kathy, and I saw that she and George were whispering about something. I'll tell you later. Jack glanced at my wish and asked in confusion. Peace and smooth sailing. Is your wish that simple? Is this simple, with bad people around? It's not simple at all. I picked a spot to tie my wish strip, and Jack tied his right next to mine. After enjoying the scenery for a while, we decided to leave, and on the way, we ran into a crazy Taoist priest. He pointed at me and Jack and said out of the blue, You two have a connection with me, and there is a karmic bond between us. I suspect that my rebirth might be related to him. I wanted to inquire further, but he simply said, Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed, and then walked away. After that, George continued to chase after me, acting as if he really liked me. Only I know how greedy and hypocritical he truly is inside. Jack had a look of watching the drama unfold the whole time. I knew he had guessed something. When I got home in the evening, Kathy kept asking me about George on WeChat. She claimed it was her duty and responsibility as my best friend to vet my romantic relationships. I deliberately made our relationship seem ambiguous, keeping her heart in a state of suspense. Anna, let me ask you something. Did you get the guaranteed admission spot at J University? I knew it. George would definitely use his relationship with Kathy to inquire about the guaranteed admission spot in that past life. Did George actually like Kathy, or was he just using her to get the guaranteed admission spot? Haven't decided yet. What's up? Nothing much. Just make sure to tell me as soon as you decide. Don't secretly accept the early admission offer. Good friends should take the college entrance exam together. Got it, Anna. I've worn my legs out for you. Please ask the homeroom teacher for another week off for me tomorrow. The college entrance exam is almost here, and you're still taking time off. Aren't you afraid it'll affect your results? In the previous life, Kathy also took some time off, and I had no idea what she was up to. I'm your disciple, you know. I'm telling you, I can get into J University. Do you believe me? I sneered inwardly. Well, I'm quite certain that with me around, you won't be able to get into J University. The days without Kathy around were very peaceful. Learning efficiency doubled. Finishing a comprehensive science paper in an hour is no problem at all. As the weekend quiz approaches, Jack starts provoking me again. This time, I will definitely surpass you in the quiz. Don't cry when it happens, then you'll probably be disappointed. Actually, what I mean is, I definitely won't do well on this quiz. I plan to keep my score around 650, to give Kathy a sense of urgency. My grades are her third lifeline. After 2 days of intense testing, the results came out quickly. Kathy happened to be back at school that day and saw that my ranking had dropped by dozens of places. She was so anxious she almost cried. Anna, what's going on with your grades? Why Have they dropped so much? It's not that bad. Isn't it normal to occasionally do poorly on a test? I said calmly. But you're Anna. No matter how others perform, you've always been number one. A girl who was very close to her chimed in. Kathy, maybe she was just that bad to begin with. Don't worry about someone. While you were away, she and George were getting really close. Kathy took a step back, heartbroken. Anna, how could you hide your flirtation with George from me? George and I are just friends. How can you spread rumors like that? I pretended to be disappointed, and she seemed a bit guilty. Don't be angry, Anna. I was just worried that it might affect your studies. Look at how much your grades have dropped this time. How could I not be concerned? Kathy's friend stood up for her. Kathy, you're too kind. She doesn't deserve it. I think she's all talk and no substance. Don't say that. Anna is my best friend, and I definitely have to look out for her. Starting today, I'll supervise your studies. Anna, you need to step up your game. In front of others, she acts as if she has my best interests at heart, but who would know how dark her intentions truly are? She even wants to take credit for my achievements. All right, while you're supervising me, make sure to improve your own grades too. After all, you said you want to get into J University. As soon as I said this, the whole class was shocked. How poorly Kathy performed in her studies was evident to everyone in the class. Everyone began to tease her. Kathy, not bad. Your ambitions are as high as the sky. Come on, come on. When you get into J University, let us community college students share in your joy too. TCH, overestimating yourself. Watching Kathy being teased until her face turned red, I felt a bit better inside. In my past life, she used this exact trick to make me the laughingstock of the whole class. I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. Once the college entrance exams are over, if she doesn't get into J University, she'll face the same kind of verbal abuse I endured in my past life. In the crowd, Jack looked at me with a smile. I'm really curious. What exactly are you up to? I said mysteriously. Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. He shook his head helplessly. I don't care about the quizzes, but you have to do well on the mock exams, or else. I glanced at him. Or else what? His ears turned red for a moment, and he avoided eye contact. Nothing. Kathy really started supervising me. No matter where I went, she followed closely behind me. Every time this happened, I would also perform a bit of tea art, just like her, spreading the news that she was planning to take the J University entrance exam far and wide. In this quiz, I still managed to not do well, and this time, my score was even lower than the last. Kathy was so anxious that her mouth was covered in blisters. The next day, she handed me a thick stack of materials, claiming it was a one-of-a-kind guide for the college entrance exam. I figured it was probably given to her by her system, so I accepted it without hesitation. I shared a copy with Jack, and he looked absolutely thrilled, as it was indeed an excellent set of materials. Later, the homeroom teacher also came to me to ask about my condition. After all, the final mock exam is coming up soon, and the results will affect my recommendation quota. A poor performance wouldn't look good. Back in the classroom, I saw Kathy sitting next to George, talking about something. That's right, it's time to resolve the issue of the recommendation quota, so George won't keep bothering me all the time. I turned and told Kathy about the guaranteed admission. Kathy, the guaranteed admission spot was really reserved for me. What should I do? Her face immediately lit up with joy, and I thought she must have already made an agreement with George. Really? Kathy, then let me ask you a question first, and you'll know what to do. Do you like George? Do you want to be with him? I was thinking about it, I said, against my conscience. That's good. I also think you and George are a good match, but he didn't get into J University. How will you two date in the future? Are you going to be in a long-distance relationship with him? Are you suggesting I give up my spot for him? This is a guaranteed admission to J University. What if I can't get in later? I'm sure you can get in. Your grades are so good. Later, she said a lot to persuade me, and I pretended to agree. All right. It's done, George. Just let Kathy be the one who pushes you to the brink. Sure enough, George asked me to chat on the playground in the afternoon. Is the spot confirmed? Yes, but I told the homeroom teacher that I wanted to give the spot to you. She said if you can score above 700 in the mock exam, the spot will be yours. Really? But that's really difficult for me. Is it difficult? Not as hard as the J University entrance exam, right? The questions in the final mock exam are usually a bit easier than usual. Keep it up. I believe you can do it. I continued to persuade. However, you must keep this information confidential. If anything goes wrong, none of us can bear the responsibility. I'll do as you say. Thank you, Anna. I will work hard and wait for you at J University. I'll see how hard you try. A week later, the mock exam officially began. Since it was the last practice test, the school took it very seriously, following all the procedures of the actual college entrance exam. Even the surveillance cameras, which were rarely used, were all turned on and monitored by designated personnel. I finished the exam with ease, and as soon as I left the exam hall, I heard something. George was caught cheating, and his results were invalidated. Having anticipated all of this, I smiled sincerely. I had already anticipated that the conditions I proposed were something he simply couldn't meet, so he had no choice but to take the wrong path. I went to the office to see the homeroom teacher and happened to overhear George asking about the guaranteed admission spot. The teacher ended up angrily telling him, no matter who it is, it can't be a student with a tarnished record. He could only walk away dejectedly. When I came back, George was arguing with Kathy. It's all your fault for encouraging me to cheat. If I can't get into J University, you won't get off easy either. George, I was just giving you a suggestion. Who would have thought you'd actually cheat and get caught? And if it weren't for me constantly persuading Anna, you wouldn't even have had the chance. Shut up. Before she could finish her sentence, George interrupted her. The credit she had previously claimed in front of George had now become her fault. George, please don't be angry. I'm sorry. Sorry. What good is sorry? My spot is gone. They kept arguing noisily until the teacher came over to stop it, giving the whole class quite a show. I wonder how they'll sweetly make their relationship public later. The matter came to an end, and the mock exam results were out. I tied for first place with Jack, both scoring 730 points. Jack was very satisfied with this result, and Kathy was even more pleased, so pleased, in fact, that she started stirring up trouble again. Anna, it's all thanks to me that you scored so high. You should treat me to a meal to show your gratitude. When this was said, many classmates were present. If I refused, my classmates would surely call me ungrateful. In my past life, even if I had to drink cold water for a week, I would have spent the money to treat her to a meal. But this time, how could I let her have her way? You help me. Look at your own grades. They're not even half of mine. What could you possibly help me with? You're here to study, not to find someone to treat you to a meal. I heard several people nearby snickering. Kathy was too embarrassed to talk back. After all, if she said the wrong thing, my trust in her would drop. The day after the results came out, Jack asked to meet me on the rooftop, saying he had something to tell me. Anna, do you really hate me that much? I looked at him, completely confused. Why would I hate you? A flicker of understanding flashed in Jack's eyes, quickly turning into mockery. I always knew Kathy was no good. I wrote you a confession letter before she returned it to me and said you told her to tell me that you can't stand people like me. I asked you out this time just to get a clear answer in person. If you really dislike me that much, I'll keep my distance from now on. I shook my head and sighed. Kathy really doesn't want me to have it easy. I don't dislike you. Jack's eyes lit up. Then I'll work hard, and you wait for me at J University. Okay, does everyone like to meet at J University so much? Then it depends on your performance. From that day on, Jack changed his usual carefree attitude and studied even harder, and George, probably feeling defeated, was in a deteriorating state, almost like giving up on himself. As for Kathy, it goes without saying, she was confident she could get my grades, so she continued to have fun as usual. The day before the college entrance exam, I specifically expressed a lot of gratitude to Kathy, making my trust in her reach its peak. Excitedly, she gave me a set of secret pre-exam papers and told me to work on them carefully. I noticed that there were indeed some questions similar to those from the previous year's college entrance exam, but I'm not sure which institution the system stole them from. I forwarded them to Jack. I don't need these at all, because for this year's college entrance exam, aside from filling in the name field, I don't plan to write a single extra word. After the exam, everyone was discussing where to go for fun. Kathy seized the last opportunity before leaving school and began her performance once again. Anna, how did you do this time? I really think I can get into J University. Many people were laughing at her, but she paid no attention. Laugh all you want. Once the results come out, you'll be proven completely wrong. Some people may have good grades usually, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll do well in the college entrance exam. After all, you can't cheat on the college entrance exam. I shook my head with a smile. She never missed an opportunity to create the illusion that my grades were obtained through cheating. I ignored her and turned to look at Jack. How about you? He was being a bit subtle. The test paper you gave is quite good. Hey, this is a sure thing. After the college entrance exam ended, we all went home, and Kathy no longer put on any show of sisterly affection. Since the outcome was already decided, I was quite happy to enjoy my freedom, so I went with Jack to work at a milk tea shop to earn some money. On the day the college entrance exam results came out, Kathy invited her classmates out, saying they should witness the miracle together and celebrate her early admission to J University. Of course, I went too. I Wanted to see what her hypocritical face would look like when she saw her results. It must have been hilarious. Everyone loves a free dinner, and quite a few classmates actually showed up. It felt like we were staying up for New Year's Eve, sticking together until the early hours of the morning, and then one by one, we picked up our phones to check our scores. Wow, I actually scored 570, I got 310, sigh, as expected. Anna probably scored a solid 700, right? The classmates' gazes instantly focused on me. I calmly raised my phone and showed them the score, 16 points. Damn, am I blind? The students rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Kathy sneered and raised her head arrogantly. I told you, some people perform well in regular exams, but the college entrance exam reveals their true abilities. The classmates sighed in disdain, looking at me with contempt. Jack stepped forward, shielding me from the strange looks of others. How many points did you score this time? How dare you laugh at others? Kathy proudly took out her phone, checking it as she spoke. I'm definitely getting into J University, just you wait and see. Kathy suddenly fell silent, her face turning pale. Her friend Lisa shook her gently. Kathy, how did you do on the exam? Kathy seemed to be in a trance, muttering to herself, it can't be, how could it be 0? How could it be wrong? Impossible, absolutely impossible. A mischievous boy next to her snatched her phone and read it out loud. 0 points, Kathy actually got 0 points and still dreams of getting into J University. That's hilarious, haha. The classmates burst into laughter. Kathy, didn't you say you would get into J University? How come your results are even worse than before? Was it because you couldn't cheat successfully? After all, you said it's impossible to cheat on the college entrance exam. Impossible. These results can't be right. I don't believe it. Her classmates were all laughing at her, and she was being scorned. Just like I was at the teacher appreciation banquet back then. After the excitement died down, I wanted to leave, but of course she wouldn't let me go. She pulled me into a corner, and Jack, feeling uneasy, followed us. Anna, you didn't do well on the exam either, so let's repeat the year together. We're so connected. It's like true friends really do share a telepathic bond. I couldn't help but laugh at how quickly her expression changed, faster than flipping a page in a book. But I've already been admitted to J University through early admission. Her face instantly turned ashen. You said you refused. You lied to me. She was so angry that she lost her mind and actually tried to grab my hair. Jack pulled me away to avoid it. Crazy woman, whether Anna gets a recommendation or not, and her grades have nothing to do with you, don't bother her again. With that, he pulled me away. I silently gave him a thumbs up in my heart. This was a situation I really didn't want to face. Jack's grades were even better than in his previous life. He actually scored 739 points and became the top scorer in our province, making all the teachers and students at our school proud of him. At that moment, I was watching a live broadcast of a reporter interviewing him. After some routine questions, the reporter asked him, Jack, I heard many universities have approached you. Why did you choose J University? The person I have a crush on went to J University, he said with a smile, his gaze seemingly piercing through the screen to look at me. I was momentarily stunned by his deep, intense eyes. As I rarely saw him so serious in my memory, the netizens instantly perked up, and the comments scrolled rapidly across the screen. So even a top student can have a puppy love. How outstanding must someone be to be secretly admired by a top student? I know the answer to that. She's the top scorer in our school. Even more impressive than the top student, but she didn't take the college entrance exam. She was directly admitted to J University. I was having a great time scrolling when Jack sent me a message. Anna, I didn't break my promise. I hope you can give me a chance too. Okay, let's see how you perform. George didn't perform well in the later stages and ended up getting into an average first-year university. Kathy chose to repeat the year, and I heard she found another high-achieving girl to be friends with, following her around all day, constantly checking in and showing concern. Then one day, while scrolling through a short video app, I saw a familiar person. It was Kathy, acting all crazy, mumbling something. You can't give up on me. You can't. What should I do? I'm about to take the college entrance exam, and I know nothing. Don't go. Please, I'll do anything you ask. George said he would only accept me if I get into J University. No, you have to help me. Woo-woo. Judging by her expression, it seems her mission failed, and the system chose to unbind from her. Also, there are some things she can't say. George was also exposed by the resourceful netizens and called a scumbag. In a way, both of them became famous in another form, karma at its finest. During the first summer vacation, our class held a reunion, and Jack and I went hand in hand. Wow, the two academic geniuses are finally together. I never thought the couple I shipped would become real. I have no regrets in this life. Their kind words made me feel as if the person who was mocked by the Whole school in my past life wasn't me, but it really was. Hey, have you heard? Kathy has been in a mental hospital and hasn't come out. Sigh, she went crazy trying to get into J University. I heard she keeps shouting in there that she got into J University and is with George now. I heard George went to see her once, and they cried in each other's arms. This is getting interesting. Did they also gain memories from their past life after the college entrance exams? That's even better. After all, losing something you once had is far more painful than never having it in the first place. After that, I never attended any class reunions again. They just weren't interesting. I was busy starting a business with Jack. We started our own company, and everything went so smoothly. On the 5th anniversary of our relationship, Jack and I returned to Shangyun Temple, and I finally saw his wish slip, which read, "May Anna get her wish. Extra story, I am Jack, and the girl I had a crush on, Anna, passed away in a car accident yesterday. I saw it with my own eyes. She was lying on the ground, covered in blood, with no breath left. It's my fault. I had something to do and couldn't accompany her to check the results. Otherwise, I would have pushed her away or taken her place, but it's all too late now. What should I do?" As I thought about it, I felt that this must be related to Anna's best friend, Kathy, but there were some things I couldn't figure out. All I know is that Kathy's results are abnormal. As if she had taken Anna's results. But how is this done? What kind of supernatural power does she have to transfer all of Anna's answers to her own test paper? I can't figure it out, but I must avenge Anna. Before I could act, I was stopped by a seemingly insane Taoist priest. I sensed something unusual in this world and came here to investigate. Young one, I can give your friend a second chance, but everything in this world has its cause and effect. You must offer your life in exchange. I do. Are you sure about this? Your future in this life is incredibly bright. I've made up my mind. I only hope that in the life where Anna is reborn, she and I can have a happy ending. Perhaps, after all, karma is a cycle, and retribution never fails. The moment I lost consciousness, I suddenly remembered the first time I saw Anna. She was walking and laughing while talking to a classmate beside her, and in an instant, she walked right into my heart. I don't mind. I just hope she gets what she wants. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.